Hey juniors, thanks for letting me spend some time with you in advisory today. Since we can't be together, I've put together this little video. Now the theme I was given for our time together is life skills. There's a million ways you can go with a topic like this, so I decided to ask you. And almost 200 of you responded to this question. What is the most important life skill you think you will need to be happy and successful in the future? Now, there's no right or wrong answer, and this is of course relative to what your definitions of happiness and success are. Your answers are so interesting, and I'm gonna do my best to tackle as many as I can during our time together. To help us keep track, I have crafted this. The ultimate life skills to help you be successful and happy bingo board, where I have written down every single one of the answers you responded with. I loved going through these responses, and here's a few that caught my eye. How to break the rules without getting into trouble. Now, I'm not sure which rules you're trying to break, but Admiral Grace Hopper once said, "Ask for forgiveness, not permission." It's important for you to remember that it was Admiral Grace Hopper who said that and not Mr. Aldous. Don't get me involved the next time you're sitting in Mr. Lee's office asking for forgiveness. Next was how to increase my vertical. Look, I'm 5'9" on a good day if I do my hair just right. I don't know the answer to this one. Maybe get a pair of these.
Of course, we have the Catapult shoes, one for your left foot and one for your right.
They'll increase your vertical jump 5 to 10 inches.
And they do have a 90-day money-back guarantee, so it's no risk to buy these shoes and try them out.
Now, a surprising number of you mentioned laundry. Well, great news. I've put together a little segment called Cleaning Clothes with Kyle to help bring you both happiness and success. Okay, welcome to Cleaning Clothes with Kyle. Today I'm going to share with you several ways to be able to wash your clothes. The first is called the flush and go. Step 1, find a clean toilet. This is the most important step of them all. Step 2, take small items such as this, socks, these work perfectly, and dip vigorously inside the toilet. Step 3, you'll want to find some soap, something similar to this. Pour generously into the toilet. Step 4, you will flush repeatedly until clean. That's it. On to the next. Okay, the next one is called the all-in-one. Step 1, find a large bathtub. Step 2, fill tub. Step 3, dump all of your dirty clothes into the tub. Step 4, stir vigorously. Step 5, empty tub. And step 6, hang clothes wherever you can find a place to hang them. Okay, so this final one is called the Running Man. What you need for this is some shoes and a storm. And then all you do is head out into the rain and run. The key is to run as fast as you can. The more speed, the better. Woo! And that is called the Running Man. Okay, so I just gave you several surefire ways to get your clothes cleaner than they are right now. You are welcome. All right, well, after looking through your list, I realized that there is one thing we can talk about right now that will impact every single item on this list. Here is the ultimate life skill that will lead to happiness and success. Questions. We're going to call this the art of asking, and we're going to cover it in 3 parts. First, we're going to talk about the benefits of asking, and then we're going to talk about asking a different type of question. And finally, we're going to end with asking for help. Now, one of the benefits of becoming a more prolific questioner is that you will save yourself a lot of time. A 2016 study found that the average Netflix user spends 18 minutes a day deciding what to watch. Let's say you only watch Netflix 3 times a week. Now let's imagine you cut down your browsing time from 18 minutes to 3 minutes. Then you end up saving 45 minutes a week, which ends up being 39 hours a year. I feel like I could do a lot with 39 hours. Actually, if nothing else, you could use those 39 hours to actually watch and enjoy the shows you want to watch. So remember our segment from earlier in the video, cleaning clothes with Kyle? Many of you simply asked how to wash your clothes. But the reality is you don't just want clean clothes, you want them cleaned efficiently, conveniently, cheaply. You don't want them to shrink or have the colors bleed or the fabric deteriorate. But if that's what you want, you need to be more specific in your question than just how to do laundry. So let's go back to our bingo board and think about this. Every single topic on this list begins with a question. So let's see how much of our board we can fill out by providing a few ideas to help you get better answers by asking better questions. So first, the overwhelming majority of you said that the most important life skill that will lead to success and happiness is how to pay taxes. I found this incredibly insightful, and I wonder if perhaps you start with a different question. Maybe it's, how do I maximize my tax return each year as a college student? Or maybe it's, how do I pay the least amount of taxes legally possible? Maybe you should start with, how do I make money so that I can pay taxes? The next question, or the next topic was cooking. You're gonna have to be a lot more specific here. If you Google how to cook, you will get very different results than if you Google how to cook a vegetarian Italian main course for a party on a college student budget. Now, communication was another big theme that you mentioned, but the nuances of presenting or public speaking are slightly different than what you might use in more interpersonal connections with others. So how can I ethically present my ideas in an entertaining and persuasive way to my friends in a conversation? That's very different than how do I get along with someone. Now, there's a quote that Einstein shared, or at least that's attributed to Einstein, and he says, if I had an hour to solve a problem and my life depended on the solution, I would spend the first 55 minutes determining the proper question to ask. For once I know the proper question, I could solve the problem in less than 5 minutes. I think you get the idea. You need to ask more targeted questions to get better answers and to save yourself a lot of time. So the next time you need something, pause and make sure you're asking the right questions. So now that we've covered the value of asking better questions, let's talk about a different type of question. There are powerful questions that we can ask ourselves in many of the situations we encounter daily that will help us make better decisions. These questions force us to pause briefly. Now we're going to look at 3 questions right now. The first question is this inside my control or outside my control? The Greek Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, the chief task in life is simply this, to identify and separate matters so that I can say clearly to myself which are externals, not under my control, and which have to do with the choices I actually control. Right now, we are in the middle of a pandemic that you and I have absolutely no control over. What we do have control over is how we safe distance, how we wash our hands and wear our masks, and follow the guidance from the government. In every situation you face, you always need to be aware of what you have control over and what you don't have control over. You get a C on a paper. What's in your control? You can try harder next time. You can go meet with the teacher. You can find a friend who can offer an editing eye next time. But you don't have the ability to change the grade yourself. So complaining and moping and being upset about it actually doesn't do anything to change the situation. There's this great quote from Viktor Frankl in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, where he says, everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances to choose one's own way. That was words spoken by a man who survived the Holocaust. Now, if he can say that in that moment, the only thing that he had left was his ability to choose, how much more applicable is that to you and I today? I find myself asking this question regularly, and it helps me put so many things into context and helps me address the situations I'm in head on. Okay, question number 2 is this. What would future Kyle say about this? In your case, future you. When you face a decision, you are not only choosing what happens to the present version of yourself, but the future version. And different decisions potentially lead to drastically different futures. A decision that barely impacts present you or present me may dramatically alter life for future you. Comedian Jerry Seinfeld has an old routine about this tension between these different versions of ourselves.
I never get enough sleep. I stay up late at night because I'm night guy. Night guy wants to stay up late. What about getting up after 5 hours sleep? Oh, that's morning guy's problem. That's not my problem. I'm night guy. I stay up as late as I want. So you get up in the morning, you're warm, you're exhausted, groggy. Oh, I hate that night guy. See, night guy always screws morning guy. There's nothing morning guy can do. The only thing morning guy can do is try and oversleep often enough so that day guy loses his job and night guy has no money to go out anymore.
There's a great approach that a number of entrepreneurs and investors use to evaluate decisions in front of them. It's called the 10-10-10 rule. They ask 3 questions in a row. How will this decision impact me 10 minutes from now? How will this decision impact me 10 months from now? And how will this decision impact me 10 years from now? Thinking like this forces you to pause, even if just for a split second. And when you pause and ask that question, you have the ability to weigh out what's going to happen in the present and in the future. Okay, question number 3 is this. What part of the story am I missing? Now, what do you think when you see these names? Okay, now what do you think when you see these names? Okay, and how about these names? Typically, what happens is we reduce these people to a label. Good person, bad person. It helps us keep things simple in our minds. The problem with this is that it doesn't account for the whole story. So for example, you read a chapter about George Washington being a great leader in the American Revolution, and suddenly he's heralded as a hero. But Washington was also a slave owner. Does knowing that change your opinion? And maybe if you dig a little deeper, you find out that in his will, he said that upon his death, the slaves he owned were to be freed. How does that piece of the story change your view? This isn't about whether Washington was a hero or a villain. This is about the fact that each of us is more complicated than the labels we casually assign. We do this all the time with our friends. When was the last time one of your friends was mean or did something dumb or out of the ordinary? It's easy to think they're being a jerk, and if they're going to do that, then I'm going to respond and I'm going to do this back to them. But what would happen if you paused for just a second to ask yourself, what am I missing? What caused him or her to act like this? Asking yourself this question will help you make better decisions and will have an unbelievably positive impact on your relationships. Okay, I'm going to give you a bonus question that I think you should ask yourself regularly as you begin what's called the decade of decision, this period between 18 and 28. And the question is this: what do I really want? So life is sneaky, and if you don't set a course, you will find yourself following the currents of those around you and being swept away by what others want for you. You need to pause, and you need to ask this question, and you need to ask it regularly, because what you want will change over time, and that's okay. But if you don't ask the question, you may find one day that you really ended up living someone else's idea of what your life should be. Okay, Let's stop for a second and pause. I'm going to throw the 4 questions we just talked about up on the screen, and I want you to pause the video, take a moment with your advisory to talk about which one of these questions you think will have the greatest impact on your life if you were to begin asking it right now. Okay? Pause the video. All right, we've talked about the value of asking questions. We've talked about some different reflective questions that will help us make decisions. I want to close with one final type of question I think we would all benefit from, and that's asking for help. We live in a time of fierce independence. We can do it on our own, we're capable, we're driven, we don't need others, and there's a lot of good to that. But like everything good, there's a shadow side if left unchecked. And there's this interesting article written about a longtime waiter at a restaurant in New York City who said that the majority of choking deaths in restaurants are men. In order to avoid asking for help, these gentlemen, while choking, will excuse themselves quickly to a bathroom where they try and solve the problem themselves before dying. My advice to you, don't die alone in a restaurant bathroom because you think being independent is a sign of strength. I don't want to read about you choking on some avocado toast in some restaurant one day. You're better than that. If you only remember one thing from today, I hope it's this. Ask, 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 keep asking. Don't worry about asking the best question or the right question. Just get into the habit of asking. Over time, the questions will refine themselves and you'll find all of the answers you need. So for now, keep asking.